G'day everyone, welcome back to Pommy and Alls. Hope we're all doing really well. We're at that stage where rattling off the player reviews because we're at the 20 to the end, really, 22 to the end. So if you are new around here, smash that like button, smash the subscribe. We've got absolutely heaps of off-season content starting from next week where we're going through every player that has entered the combine. So you'll learn about just about everyone who will or will not be drafted. So stay tuned for that. To my knowledge, never been done. Definitely hasn't been done on YouTube. So there we are. So that is worth a sub in itself because that has been 6 months hard work. And let's get into it. So we start with the guy that has just signed a contract today, Caleb Marchbank. And I love Marchy. Do you know what I mean? The 4 games this year, and he showed a bit, particularly towards the end. He did. Do you know what I mean? The Melbourne game was probably his best game, I would say. He really started to build into it. This is a guy that is so irritating to comment on. So irritating because he's like Charlie Curnow 2 years, right, ago, I would say, you know, just where it's so close. It's so close. You know how good he is. Didn't Paul win the Pommy BNF, but someone that I really do admire, and I think on his day is, without a shadow of a doubt, easily best 22, easily a guy that can win you games on his own. We've got to hope he stays fit, got to hope he keeps it up, keeps the momentum up, and if he can stay fit, I'd love to see it because 4 games for me is unacceptable at senior level. No, he's been injured. No, it's not quite his fault, but I need a bit more from him. Going to give him a 5 out of 10 for the year, purely because of the games, and I've got to be consistent with harshness, really. But a guy that, again, is one of them players that I'm looking at doing this next year and having an 8, 9, and 10. Up next, Caleb Marchbank. Now, I mean, up next, Jacob Wheatering, our vice captain, played 18 games this year. There was that game early on in the year, round 6, 21 touches, where he absolutely took the piss in that game, really showed what it was. The 13 marks that game as well. He was sensational, let's put it that way. Absolutely sensational. Rebound 50s were high, transitions were high. It looked like it was going to be a year where it was wow. Then we had that little injury halfway point in the year and definitely was affected by it. And you can see not just numerically with your eyes. In fact, Helen Keller called me halfway through the season and said, what the fuck's up with Wheats? Still a very good year, though. Still a very good year. Got the All-Australian nomination, but he's a little bit like Cripper. He'll be thinking, you know what? If injuries didn't happen to myself personally and around the team, where could I have been? Still, one of the big things about Wheaters is his 1%ers, the incidentals, I like to call them. I don't like them called 1%ers. I think doesn't quite gravitas what that means for a football club. And he's still top 10, 11th, sorry. Well, he's just about top 10 for it in the league per game. It was a steady year and he's a victim of his own high levels, I think. And obviously playing injured doesn't help. I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10 for the year. Still a very good, solid year, but consistency. He did poll the 10 votes in the Pommy BNF. So it wasn't too bad a year. Maybe I'm a little bit harsh. I do want to see that first half of the season is his ceiling. And obviously, I'm giving him a bit of a benefit of doubt. He was injured, but the rest is just passable for me. We go on to Nic Newman. Nic Newman, probably, I would say, one of the most underrated players at this football club. 19 games. And he's just pretty much always there, isn't he? He does what he says on the tin. He's one of these beautiful footballers as well. When you look at his averages, it's kind of what you actually get every game. He doesn't excite you. He doesn't scare you. He's a very, very accomplished player and someone that I think is very understated at Carlton. There was the Essendon game where he absolutely tore it up. But what I love about him is his workability, his effort on both ends of the ground. Something that is considerable you've seen as well in him this year is his work ethic. He really has, even at 29 years old, he's starting to really add them facets. And that's something that really impresses me about Nic Newman, that he isn't going to get the esteem that your Docs and your Sards get. But one thing he does is he maximizes his talent, and I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan. Real solid for me. Again, 7 out of 10 for me. Didn't Paul in the Pommy BNF, but I'm a big fan of these guys that are in the side to play a role. And Nic Newman, I see as one of them. I don't see him as a game changer like a Doc or a Sard. And I really, really enjoyed his year. So credit to him. And we need players like him around the club without a shadow of a doubt. Zac Fisher, the guy that really does divide the Carlton fans. But I really enjoyed this year. One of only 3 players to play every game and be available for them. Definitely for me, career best years this year. And the stats back it up. He really did start to get in the zone and really find a role, I think. That high half forward, playing into the wing, pinch hitting in the centre. I think that's his role. I think he's a very, very accomplished at that. A lot of highlights towards the middle. When he was kind of the perfect footballer. He had highlight reels at the start, middle, and then the Adelaide game sticks out round 8, round 15, Freo. And towards the end, the Geelong game was very accomplished as well. The Freo game was sensational. That 31-point win, he was absolutely brilliant and set a career high in disposals and showed us what he's capable of. And he's really added layers to his game. I'm really interested as well into seeing his running both ways. He seems to have really added that. So for me, it's something that I'm excited about. He's coming into his 6th year, 24 years old. So he's been around the block, so to speak. The 4 votes in the Pommy BNF, definite 7 out of 10 because I think he's really impressed me this year. And I'm looking forward to seeing if he can build on it and go one step further. Luke Parks, delisted by the club, 2 games. Not really a surprise. He's kind of caught at 192 in that hard place. Are you an intercept defender? Not really. Are you a lockdown? Maybe. Is that the way we're going? Not really. So no surprise for me to see him delisted. I really did like Luke Parks, though, and I hope he goes to the VFL and gets another opportunity because there is teams that play the lockdown tournament in that 3rd. You could see Vossi needed something else. So I'm going to give him a 3 out of 10 because I wasn't quite impressed with what he did when he came into the league. So good luck to you, Luke, mate. Moving on. Round number 27, Marc Pittonet. This guy is probably going to get stiff. Now, it's not his fault he got injured. Sean Darcy is a thug. But he only played the 8 games this year. And he started sensationally as well. Came out of the blocks really firing. And then I questioned why he came back into the side. Pulled the 1 vote. We need a lot more from our mid-age senior ruck, and it seems to feel like an age for him to get fit. Now, I'm not having a go at him. He got injured. But when I see players play less than 10 games, it does worry me, especially when he's 26. Do you know what I mean? It's not his fault. He took a horrible knock, and it was a big injury, but he didn't set the world on light and he didn't look fit. And I do question why he came in, which isn't his fault. Maybe I'm panning him for something that's not his fault. But I really like Marc Pittonet. And I think Marc Pittonet, when he's fit, gives Carlton something and it's a big layer. So he's someone that I'm looking at. You must stay fit, Mark. You must stay fit. So for me, it's going to be just a flat 5 out of 10. It is where he came. I feel this season is what he came to us as. And last year he showed a bit more. And there always seems to be just a little niggle with Mark, which frustrates me. Really, I could give him a 7 because it allowed Pittonet to play a lot, allowed TDK to play a lot, but we're fair here. 28, David Cunningham, the mercurial player. He didn't play, did he? So it was a permanent 2-week injury. Didn't Paul in the Pommy BNF, obviously. Didn't play any VFL. Wait and see till next year. He got a contract, though. So I will give him a 1. Not his fault. He gets 1 for turning up. Spelling his name right. Good luck, Connor. See you next year. 29, George Hewitt. Now we're getting to them, aren't we? Big fan of George. Played the 15 games. Ranked top 10 in clearances. Top 10 in disposals. Top 5 in effective disposals. Top 3 in centre clearances. The most underrated player Carlton have signed ever, I think. Most underrated, like, honestly, And it doesn't get enough kudos from the press. Absolutely balmy. We've got this guy for Sweet FA. And what some games in there. That stint round 9, 10, 11, 13 and 15. Absolutely impeccable. Probably the best football I've seen a player from his standing come play. It was just so consistent. He's Mr. Consistent. He's one of them players that, every club has them, and for years, no one wants them. Do you know what I mean? At Carlton, they'd rather have a Cornelio versus a Hewitt. And I've been preaching it for years. You don't need superstars. You need guys that fucking do their job, right? To complement them people, as proven by the 5 All-Australians. Do you know what I mean? And we finished 9th. 21 votes in the Pommy BNF, which put him at 6th. So, absolutely sensational. I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10 because I knew he was going to be good. I thought he was going to be like a 7 out of 10 good. I thought he's oversold that. So, absolutely splendid. And this is probably what everyone's come for, Charlie Curnow. Me with a little cheeky grin, saying he'd win it. And he won it. Oh, not surprised. Charlie Curnow. What can you say? Easily now. Number 1 in goals, top 4 in marks, top 5 in contested marks, top 7 in score involvements. Absolute genius of a footballer. Absolute genius. Like the best player in the league. And I don't even mean that. And we don't even have to talk too much about him. He finished 3rd in the Pommy BNF with 41 votes. It's a solid 10. Now he's got to back it up. You know what, actually? I'm changing that vote. It's a 9 because there's more there. There's more there in Charlie. We'll go with work mode Pom, right? Don't give too much credit when there's a bit more to go. But honestly, sensational from the lad. Sensational. Honestly, easily the best player in the league. Easily. Up next, Jackie Noons. 16 games. Bit of an Aaron Mullet about this, isn't there? He's played a lot of games, then Carlton dispense of him. Makes sense. Blake Acres comes in, who's a massive upgrade on him. We know Vossi likes that defensive wing. Vic Port had it. Brisbane did similar. So it's important to him. Few highlight reels, though, for him as he leaves the club. That Fremantle game a couple of years ago, the goal, but did it again against Fremantle. Was a very solid game in round 15. The Essendon game, probably his best this year. Probably the best we've seen of him. Just steady, isn't he? He's just a steady footballer, and he's the kind of guy that you move on because it should be quite easy to replace him. Jackie Noons in the Pom votes got 1 vote for that Essendon game. So solid from Jack. Exactly what I expected of him. So it's 5.5. Exactly what I expected of him. So good luck to him wherever he goes now, whether that's VFL, whether a North or someone take it. But I've enjoyed my time of being a champion of your work, Jack. Lewis Young next, 33, probably a big shock to Carlton fans. This guy played 19 games. The number 1 player in the comp for 1%ers. Top 10 in intercepts per game. Coming of age for him. And another Nick Austin masterclass. Looked really solid. That Fremantle game in round 6 was probably one of my highlights for him. But he kept doing it. The Collingwood game towards the end of the year, he started to show it as well. He really did add a lot to his game. And a guy that has really come on leaps and bounds. The 8 votes makes the Liam Jones non-playing probably a highlight because now you've got a very young footballer who's ready to go and starting to build a relationship with Wheatering, which is really important. And you started to see that as well, especially when Wheatering got a little bit hurt and came back. Easily an 8 out of 10. It's well over what I expected from him at such a young age in a new system. And well done. Loved it. Sam Philp next. This guy is an enigma, isn't he? Enigma. A lot of talk about him at the start of the preseason and unfortunately got injured. He wasn't exactly sensational in VFL when he came back, but that being said, it's a tough gig, isn't it? It's a tough gig, and we're tough taskmasters. A guy that probably is lucky he got a contract, in all honesty. Do you know what I mean? Lucky he got in a contract. It's going to be very interesting with Philpy, I think, of what Carlton do. of where he can go, if you know what I mean. How he fits into this team is going to be interesting. He came in at round 3 for the VFL, and he had his moments there. He came out of the blocks firing, but after that, there was a bit of nothingness until, I think it was round 10, the Bullants game, and still trying to find his role. I can see the foot speed. I think that's the thing that throws the coaches as well. There's something there. It's about getting a bit of continuity into him. So this is a big year for him. A solid 1 out of 10, though, for me. Maybe it's a bit harsh. Ed Kerner, another guy that we didn't see this year. Old man injury starting to creep in. Great to have him around the club. He looks like he's set to re-sign. Great to have him around. That work ethic. It's something that when you speak to the younger players is a big inspiration to them. Bit of a salary cap manipulation as well, because Carlton could use, obviously you could say be a coach, but then you're ruining your coach soft cap. So for the value that he's on, it's going to be sweet FA. Again, it's probably a 1 out of 10. I like Ed, so I'll give him 2 out of 10 because he's influence around the dressing room. But we need to see him in the terms of being actually on the park in the VFL, developing these boys and being that break glass in case of emergency type footballer. When he came back in VFL, he was sensational though. So, and then he got injured again, but he did show he's a cut above that. And that excites me when he's working with some of these younger players, your Philps and things like that, you guys that have got questionable work ethic. So looking forward to seeing him come back. Looking forward to it. My boy, Josh Honey, up next. This guy could be something quite special, and I am 100% sure of it. He played the 5 games this year, but in reality, he only played 4 because he was an unused sub against the Cats. There's something there. That GWS game showed it, the 14 touches showed that he can really work it off high half forward. Was a really good link. He's a guy that I'm expecting to really go up. Really go up now. We're not going to talk. He's a rookie pick, so you've got to give him a bit of a margin for error. But I'm going to give him a 4 out of 10. I would expect him to put a bit more pressure. And I know he's a very hungry beast. He's a guy that I've been following a lot. I think we were the first to talk about him in his draft year. No one mentioned him and Carlton rookied him. This is the year for me. He goes coming up. So go hard, young thing. Didn't poll in the Pommy votes. Then we've got Jordan Boyd, the surprise packet, didn't he? Came in 7 games, then got hurt. Really made the back pocket his own. I really like him. I really do like him. He really works hard. He got the 3 Pommy votes as well. He really stood out. And that back pocket is such a specialised role for me. Such a specialised role that he really complements what's there because he's a good user of the football. He's tough. He stays on his man. He's got all them facets, all them incidentals you look for. So I really enjoyed Boyd's game. And he's going to be a guy that's probably going to put a bit of pressure on players, particularly players like Zach Williams, who probably he benefited from Zach Williams being hurt all the time. It's going to be interesting how that plays out, especially with Nic Newman, Williams. You'd say only 2 of them fall into 2 spots. And I'd say John Boyd will probably fancy himself, and I fancy him as well. So really good year for me. 7 out of 10 for me because he came and he saw and he kicked ass. Sam Durden next. He was mid-year. Didn't exactly set the world alight against Richmond. Then he got hurt, never came back into it because Carlton started to sort their injuries out. In the VFL, he's steady. He's one of them players. Great backup, great replacement for Oscar McDonald, who we'll talk about in a minute. 5 out of 10 for me. He came in late. He was serviceable that game. And then the VFL is keeping the young lads honest. That's all you can ask for from him. Didn't poll at all. Oscar McDonald, only the 2 games and he got injured. It started to look all right, didn't it, in that first game? Then the back injury came. 4 out of 10 because he let us down. And now he's no longer there. I loved him, though. It was nice while it lasted. Will Hayes, another mid-year guy, played the 2 games, 23 touches against Geelong, started to show a bit. He also has been delisted. His VFL form, sensational. It's like a 9, his VFL form. AFL form, I understand why they got rid of him because now it's time to try a draftee. He is cracking on a bit. That's what people forget. I do like Will Hayes, though. I hope he sticks around the VFL, but I'm going to give him a 4 out of 10. He came when we needed him. Domanic Akuei, my boy, starting to really build in the VFL. We're just not seeing him in the AFL. He's still way away. Probably won't see him next year in the VFL either. The AFL either. But he's starting to build and he's got something about him. And I'm a big fan. His VFL form for me would be a 6 out of 10. He's above where I thought he would be, adding the layers. Obviously, in the AFL, though, we've got to give him a 1 out of 10, unfortunately, because we don't see him. We haven't seen him, and it's hard to give him that. But keep up the good work, Dom. We cannot wait to review you when you're in there. Adam Sard. And ladies and gentlemen, give this gentleman a round of applause. 44 Pommy in Oz votes. Your Pommy in Oz BNF winner. What a player. Absolute sensational. 21 played all the games this year but one. Number 1 bouncer in the league. Top 10 for intercepts. There was some absolute moments as well. Fremantle, the 28 touches. The transitional threat. We finally got a game plan that really benefits the young gentleman. And he absolutely took to Carlton's game like a duck to water this year. Sensational. There's something about him. The woof. Everything. He's the most likeable guy at Carlton Football Club. Congratulations, Adam Sard. You actually get a 10 because I don't think he can get any better. The fact he's added the defensive craft as well. Absolute sensational footballer. Superstar. Deserved his All-Australian. Will Setterfield. Tell you what, this man gets moved around pillar to post and he's on hinge with his contract. 13 games this year, which in reality is 12 because he played one that was an unused sub. Some good moments. The Melbourne game, he showcased it coming on the ball. Probably got himself a contract on the back of that. Very good backup. And he has to play that role at VFL as well, for me, on the ball. And be that backup. You can pinch hit him on the wing. No issue with that. Pinch hit him. Half-back flank he's played. Half-forward flank. This guy gets moved around. Do you know what I mean? But there is something there as that backup as well. And he's going to protect the bigger bodies. And he's got some models to learn off, like your Kennedys, who have really knuckled down. Whether he stays or not is another question. Do Carlton go younger? I wouldn't mind them going younger if they can get some pick for him. But at the end of the day, nay bad. Do you know what I mean? That Melbourne game, that Collingwood game, and that GWS game, he finished the year strong. So he showed once we played him in his primary position, he looked a bit better. Will Setterfield, he did poll 3 votes in the Pommy in Oz medal. I wouldn't say I'm a big fan, but I like him around the list. Solid 5.5 out of 10. I give him 0.5 more because Carlton did start to find his position. Then Matt Owens, the guy that gets a lot of hate from Carlton, just under a goal a game, 3rd in inside 50 tackles, very important part of Voss's game. Interesting to note that Motlop was tracking to beat that in the limited game times as well. Really started to add that. Wasn't far off him. So, while he's there, he's a defensive forward. So, before we start panning him for what he is what he is. The problem Carlton have got is we start to play 2 or 3 of them, which is an issue for me. A massive issue. Part of the small forwards, though, that were ranked 11th in the league with some of the youngest and the least experienced him and Jesse Motlop finishing top 20 for tackles inside 50 is very interesting. Needed about 3 more tackles Jesse Motlop did in his game to usurp him. So very interesting type thing. Moving forward with Matty Owens, because of his age, I'd love to know what Carlton do because I don't think they're trying to convert too many players into this, in my opinion. When I look at it, he's 25, 26 halfway through the year next year. I personally think that they'll persevere with Durden, and I think Owens may come out, especially with Motlop. He's reliable, but I think that's too many defensive type forwards. And the stats back it up that Carlton actually got better as a defensive unit and harder to score against, right, per entry in the second half of the year, but they slid down the goals. And you've got to look at these guys here. And that's it for me. You need to go a little bit more aggressive in your mode here. And I think that's what's holding us back. But a very good year from Matty Owens. I was impressed with it. That being said, I just think he might be a victim of his age and the fact of Motlop's development. But solid 6 out of 10 for me. Alex Murkoff, we didn't see him. He developed a little bit in the VFL. His VFL form would be about a 6. A 1 out of 10, though, for him in the AFL. We haven't seen him. And a lot of work to do, but something that I am keeping a close eye on. And we finish with everyone's favourite, Matty Cottrell. Who can forget the round 5 game where he really came alive as a defensive asset and an offensive asset? The 2 goals against Adelaide was a little bit of a joy as well. Plays with his heart on his sleeve. He's the aggressive wing that we don't have, Matty Cottrell, the aggressive wing. And he won't be worried about Blake Acres coming in at all, because he'll be like, well, you know what? I don't play that role. I play a different role. So I'm looking forward to him, but he's a guy that has developed, has gone hard. Excitement. He's a joy to watch. I think he has cemented his place in the best 22. And I think his elite engine combined with his aggressive and his flair and his attacking nous really impresses me. So Matty Cottrell gets a 7 out of 10 for me. I've enjoyed his year, and that completes it. We get on to the good stuff. Under 25 minutes. What an effort. So I will see you next time. Much love. Stay safe. See you next week. Enjoy the footy.